have to go cheaper. Look to who you feel is got, I guess, the L.A. at Detroit might be good, but again, we saw Detroit and what they can do. Green Bay, I don't know. I'm waiting for Dallas to fall off. 7 points.
You might have a long wait.
What's that?
You might have a long wait. I think that Cowboy team might just be for real.
We'll see. It's at Green Bay, though.
It is a tough game, but Dallas they really surprised me beating up on Cincinnati. And, they were at home. I get it, but I didn't see that coming. Just didn't see it coming. Probably should have.
So I guess that really leaves me the dirt poor value play I have of the week is we're going back with the same logic with our kicker is Jacksonville playing Chicago. I know they're not giving up too many points with Hoyer at the helm, but Jacksonville isn't that bad of a defense. And so I again, you're keeping your fingers crossed and hoping that Hoyer throws a pick and they get, pick six.
Sure.
But
here's what we got to do here, Harbor Mike. We could talk all day and all night, and I love it. But we got to jump into the Sunday, Monday night matchups. We got to hit that as quickly as possible, so we're going to move through it as fast as we can because we've got to really, really be tight on that time window here tonight, and we've got maybe 12 minutes to fire away. So let's do this in 10. We can jam out, rock out, and go from there. So let's jump right into the Sunday, Monday night matchups. What are the two games?
The two games are the Jets at Arizona.
That's Monday night.
In Indianapolis at Houston.
And that's Sunday at 8:30.
Yeah, so what we really need to be cognizant of when you're making these teams out with the limited amount is you have to hit on all the big players or you're not going to obviously place. You're not going to win dick. But also you have to, if you want to win big money, instead of dividing the big pot among 500 people and walk away with $130 when you sometimes have 13,000, you have to pick that esoteric player and hope he hits. So basically, what you do is, this week, to put it bluntly, I really like Carson Palmer at quarterback. The Jets are horrible at defense. And even though he's bad this year, Darrelle Revis is hurt, stopped practicing. So I expect him to go off. They got a lot to prove. They got a lot of traction to make up. So I think
let's rank them. Let's rank them. 4 games, 4 teams, quarterbacks top to bottom. We're going Palmer, Luck, Fitzpatrick, and that piece of shit Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, exactly. Did he fuck?
Maybe
your
I'm
sister?
too hard on the kid.
Did Osweiler fuck your sister, man? Come on.
Yeah, man, you might think so. You give him all this money, and we've talked about it before, and I'll talk about it one episode again when he is actually released from the Houston Texans and he walks away with a big money contract and steals that to go be a clipboard carrier somewhere else. He sucks, and there's no way a good franchise gives this kid that kind of money. So.
John Elway let him go when you have one of the great quarterbacks of all time. Not be impressed that you should stay.
Without question. Elway knew what he was doing, and again, we'll have to get into that another time. But to rank them again, Carson Palmer, Andrew Luck, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and that piece of shit Brock Osweiler. We got to jump into running backs because we got to handle about 2 minutes per position here. And running backs is the real interesting one because you've got a sleeper pick in here, and you've got 2 guys that you probably are going to feel comfortable fitting them in there. But
roll with David Johnson and Lamar Miller, and because a lot of these contests are $5 and $2 entries, depending on the pot you want to win. If you want to go sleeper, try to rotate in Frank Gore. Because, again, we don't have to worry about value. We're going to be able to fit all the players in that we want. We're going to avoid the bigger players at wide receiver for various reasons we'll get to in a second. But both of those guys, David Johnson, Lamar Miller, have good matchups, all things considered. I didn't like Lamar Miller on our Sunday play because there's so many better value picks. But here, with our choices, we know that Matt Forte is falling off. So, again, the super, given the idea of picking that guy no one's going to play that might win, it's Bilal Powell.
Yeah.
So be cognizant of those 4 guys with the 2 guys that are the biggest studs that most likely will have the biggest point total will be David Johnson and Lamar Miller. If I was going to start a lineup, I really like David Johnson and one of the sleeper picks if I'm going that route. Now, if I'm going with the sleeper picks, then I'm going to put in all the studs at my wide receiver position. If I'm going the 2 studs at my running back picks, then I got to pick some sleepers at my wide receiver or tight end, and we'll get more of that in a second. So all things considered,
sure.
Depending on how much money you have, your first 2 choices would be David Johnson and Lamar Miller, and then try to incorporate the sleeper picks in as many different ways as you can. But it's certainly Bilal Powell and I just drew a blank, and Frank Gore as your sleepers. With Bilal Powell, maybe even having even more value because he's the deepest sleeper.
Okay, so ranking the running backs top to bottom in the Sunday night, Monday night matchups, I think that you're remiss if you don't have David Johnson in every lineup. That's the guy that should, barring something catastrophic, which I have him in 2 leagues, so I'm waiting for that catastrophic moment because my teams are all taking giant shits.
Seems to be pretty healthy, though. He hasn't given any indication that he's one of those running backs that can't hold
He
on.
is. He's durable. I think he's a real special player, and I think Bruce Arians knows how to use him. I love the kid, actually. Love him.
Yeah, he goes
but I think
off.
you go David Johnson 1, Lamar Miller is 2 because Indianapolis hasn't stopped anybody. So key your lineups, like you would at the horses. Key them around those guys. But I love Frank Gore and Bilal Powell. I think those are really interesting plays that could probably just get you that inexpensive, high value, low price, big points. You can find what you want on a Frank Gore and Bilal Powell.
Yeah.
Gore
and keep in mind, it does matter if you pick all of the studs, the highest value guys, and let's say each one of those positions scores the most points, you're going to get first place. But like I said a little while ago, so are 500 other people. And
That's
if
right.
you can win first place by yourself, you're winning $50,000. Now, last week, the first place guy won $35,000. So there was only 2 other people eating in.
Sure, he was in that limited winners bracket, yeah.
Exactly, because he was smart. He started Cameron started Payne. And that was started by 6% of the people. So when you do that, that's how you win the big pots. Otherwise, you might win, but you're not going to win a lot of money. So that's
right.
what I learned early on. So when we move on to the wide receivers,
let's do that.
I like Brandon Marshall because Brandon Marshall, given the matchup, Eric Decker just got put on IR. Quincy Enunwa, he's not quite ready for prime time, and who knows if he will.
No, but I think he's a special player. I do. I think he's big, strong, catches everything.
He is, but we saw a whole mess of targets go through Brandon Marshall last week.
You sure did, yeah.
And he produced.
He's who 50 trusts.
Yeah, he stood up for his quarterback. Given this matchup, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think their secondary is horrible for the Jets, so I think they're going to have no choice but to play keep up with Arizona, and that means he's going to be a stud. I don't think his quarterback is going to be. I think his quarterback's going to throw 1 or 2 touchdowns at best.
Right.
But he does have that production. But I also think he's going to throw a few picks.
Yeah,
so
it's in his DNA.
And you want that. You want the team. If Carson Palmer is going to be throwing a bunch of touchdowns, then who's going to be playing catch up? It's going to be Brandon Marshall on his team trying to catch him. So I like him. Again, here's one of our sleepers or our no one picks. Again, I like Will Fuller for the same thing I just told you all about. And again, in this matchup, he's going to be picked way less than everyone's going to have DeAndre Hopkins, 30, 40, 50% of lineups.
Probably.
So let's start Will Fuller and hope we get that magic that he's shown to be able to do. And if there is a lot of offensive production, which Vegas thinks is going to happen, then it's got to go through. They have 2 wide receivers it can go through, 1 running back who hasn't even scored yet. That's what we're hoping with LeVar Miller. So it's almost logically his time. So again, it's to me a no-brainer, and that's the guy that I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm not necessarily expecting 25 points, but you don't need that in this 4-game matchup.
Word. Check it. What do you think about Philip Dorsett? I know that you're not excited about Andrew Luck and anything Colts really, but I think Philip Dorsett could give you that boomer bust. He can take one over the top. The kid can fly, and he can take the top off of the defense. I don't know about whenever he wants to because I think he has some route running issues. T.Y. Hilton is the guy that does that, but T.Y. Hilton should be blanketed well in this game, but I'm not going to be surprised if he has a big score. Somebody's going to get a big one. This team is bound to play from behind on the road.
Keep in mind, Houston is top 4 defense in the league in passing defense, and they're tied for second with 3 touchdowns. So they are pretty badass, at least they've so far. Now, are they due to break? Sure, and could, Andrew Luck is a pretty good candidate, but even without, their pass rusher, God, I lost my train of thought. Even without, who's their stud that's gone on IR now?
That's a good question.
And
every now and then, even the pros lose trains of thought. It's okay.
Defensive Player of the Year. Oh God.
J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt. Thank you. Even though God, that's horrible. Sometimes,
I was waiting for you to find it, but I'm here. No.
It happens.
I'm just actually trying to reach across the table to get to my mini fridge to grab another beer.
Yeah, but so with J.J. Watt on IR, they're still making progress. I think they're going to beat up the quarterback, and you may have a more lower scoring game. But like I said, even if you do, I think I'd get more value with Fuller, and I think Dorsett might be used a little more. But he's we got to jump.
We got to jump quick. So let's jump into tight ends and defense and kicker right quick, because again, this is a Sunday Monday night matchup. The way I set up a lineup, I spent some money on this one. I've done a couple different ones, and I did throw one in there with Andrew Luck because I like the opportunity that he could be playing from behind and slinging it all over the place. And I want to go over my lineup quickly. Luck, David Johnson, and Frank Gore mixed in there. I think John Brown is a well-priced wide receiver who, coming off these concussion injuries, is all of a sudden a lot more valuable. He seems to be getting into the play a little bit more. He's healthy. His head's not ringing, and hopefully he's doing well. I see him cranking one at least, and then having some underneath stuff as well. Either you're starting John Brown or you're not. I don't know how you can get away with a lineup without Larry Fitzgerald in it, but in this one, I can't afford Fitzgerald and Brandon Marshall at the same pace. So I would suggest one of the two. If you can get both of them in there and bottom out, you can do it, but there's no way to really bottom it out.
No, if you can afford it, I would have a lineup with John Brown in it, and then I would have the exact same lineup with Larry Fitzgerald in it. And I've done it a bunch of times. I've done it like 50 times so far. It can be done. So.
No, I'm sure you have, and I think it's important to note that when you're playing these small matchups, guys like Fitzgerald, just about 90% of the league is going to own him, or maybe 60. Let's be fair, maybe about 60. You're better off being in that 60% bracket with him. Yeah,
let me give you a real quick rundown of my lineup, and it'll give you an idea because it leaves me $200 left, so it does kind of bottom you out.
Sure.
It only gives you 2 different kickers to be able to use, and
okay.
Fire away. Yeah, basically Carson Palmer, David Johnson, Lamar Miller, Brandon Marshall, Larry Fitzgerald, Will Fuller, Jack Doyle. Then you have Nick Folk in the Jets, and you can actually go Nick Folk, Nick Novak, and Chandler Catanzaro. And you can only pick the Jets D.
Okay.
If you do that lineup. So that's cool. You cover every kicker, so there's no. You don't have to guess. You got you're probably your 3rd or 4th tight end who's going to be picked in Jack Doyle. You have the possibility for him to go off, and then you also have another sleeper pick in your lineup at Will Fuller. And so if he does his normal production that we've seen, 10-plus points, that lineup with your usual production from the other guys could win.
I like it. But let me tell you something here, Harbor Mike. We are on it. We are over it. We are done. Time limit is here. I'm getting ready to go watch the Tribe play, man. We got our outro music flying up. Once again, it's fun as hell to talk about fantasy football and hopefully help our friends and listeners out there build a lineup that's going to get them in the mix and make their Sundays a little bit more interesting. The Lions Sports Talk podcast is brought to you by our friends at Sunday Swim. Make sure you go check them out. It's not too late for you to start a pick'em league with all your friends and your office mates. SundaySwim.com. Better your Sundays. Mike, I love it, dude. I'm so glad you decided to come on board with us and do these Thursday night Building the Perfect Beast episodes. It's a lot of fun, and I know that we're all getting better at this and having a better understanding of daily fantasy football. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love it. Thanks to all the listeners out there. Mike, tell them all good night.
It's a good time. I appreciate it, man. Guys, you have a good time, and good luck this Sunday.
Yep, and if you're listening tonight, make sure you tune in tomorrow afternoon or Sunday morning before we do our Pick'em show. Joey Peeps and Pepper Jack will be back on. We'll go over what we did and what we can do and and we'll give you our lineups and our breakdowns. But thanks again, guys. We've emptied the